Eighth President of Voorhees University, Dr. Cleveland Sellers. And I have to admit that I was so excited when they told me about the format, that it was going to be just a general conversation of sorts with such a distinguished gentleman, because this is normally what we are allowed to do. Sometimes I catch him in the evenings when he was doing his daily walks to just engage in general conversation, and he is always available just to share and to answer questions and to talk about past, present and current politics and social justice issues and the like. And so I am so excited to be a part of our conversation today. And the program will proceed as follows, as outlined in your official program. And so at this point, as we do with all things, to be able to set the tone right here at a religiously affiliated institution, is to ask our dear Dr. Ben James if he will come forward to give our invitation.
Grace and peace from God our Father and the Lord Jesus Christ. Our Father, which art in heaven, what a privilege and pleasure it is to come in your presence one more time, to give you thanks and to give you praise. And as we come to this morning, we have so much to be thankful for. And as we celebrate Black History Month, I want to say thank you. Thank you for our forefathers who gone before us. And thank you for courage that we're will to fight, that we might live. Count already the day of the Lord is made. Cannot give you praise enough. I ask you to help us never to forget where you brought us from. Help us not to forget the struggle, the battle, the shed blood. Where you brought us. When it seems like it was impossible, you always made a way out. So thank you for the good and guidance. I ask you to bless the upon this new meeting and new gallery, spiritual water story. And now, as the sellers, refresh all, refresh anointing, refresh strength unto us. Bless this setting that we're in. Breathe on us. Breathe on us. Our leaders of college. Breathe on us. So that's why I give you thank you now. And I'll talk to you again a little bit about it. In Jesus' name. Amen.
At this time, we will have a wonderful presentation from the choir as represented by President Choir Director. Let's give them a round of applause.
A great morning, Voorhees University. Great morning, Voorhees University. Listen, it is a choir presentation. It says presentation simply because we're not doing the traditional song from the choir per se today. understanding that music in our civil rights movement was very powerful. We definitely used our voice as a weapon of our warfare. And the songs that were sung during those times of marching and protesting, those were songs that they didn't have choir rehearsal for. I'm going somewhere. But those were songs that they didn't come together and say, okay, soprano, this is your part, alto, this is your part, and then tenor, this is your part. It was simply because of the fact that from the soul of what was going on, they began to sing those songs because those liberal spirituals are hymns. And for the most part, we know that we have this generation of students that may not understand or have heard the sounds of what it was when they walked those streets marching. And they were under so much of a pressure that even the singing sometimes, calls their person to be careful on that sound. So what we're going to do today, we're going to invite to be a part of the sounds of the protest, the sounds that, and I'm going to ask, listen, I'm not just going to stop about your age because it is a grateful thing to grow gracefully. So we're going to ask those that were a part of that time, that era of the civil rights movement, if you will please stand, if you will please stand, the 60s and the 60s and the 70s. Come on. We're going to and there was no keyboard on the street, they didn't have all of the electronics, it was just the voice, it was just the tempo of that voice. So we're going to do just some songs, just three little minutes of one or two lines of songs that you are very familiar with. And we want you to help us sing today, is that okay? Do you ever remember songs like I Shall Not Be Moved? I didn't remember that one? Okay, now I just lost the right there, but you go give it the key, he's still on the right key. And we're going to ask everybody to join in and sing with us. So it's just not a choir today, it's everybody. As we are getting ready to receive our there we go. All right, so let's see you there. And we want you to, so right now, you can sing it from the soul. And let's give this new generation an understanding of what the sound was like during those days. our civil rights movement, simply, we shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome one day or someday. Now, what they did, they locked arms together, so let's lock our arms. I know we got COVID going on, and you're not comfortable, that's okay. They locked arms and they made a chain when they walked through the streets. They don't understand that way. But they made a chain, and therefore, a chain that we are together, and nothing is going to penetrate or stop us now. Because one day we shall overcome. We shall overcome what? To everybody say, we shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome someday. Deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome. We shall overcome someday. We shall overcome. I do believe we shall overcome someday. Thank you, Miss Laura.
Thank you so much, Reverend Jones. Give her another round of applause. And I have to tell you, Director Johnson, the time you stood up and talked about the music and the voice, Celestine was doing like this. and moving with the beat. And at this time, I'm going to give a brief introduction of our distinguished guest. I'm not going to read his entire bio because we're going to spend that time in conversation where he is going to reveal so much more to you than simply the bio, but I do want to mention a couple of things. So growing up in rural South Carolina, in the shadows of Voorhees College, young Cleveland Sellers had the dreams that went far beyond the city limits of Denmark. As the 3-year-old mascot for the big school in his little town, and that picture is still on display in our very own library upstairs, so please check it out. It is a cute thing. Sellers had no idea that he would be named the president of that very same institution more than half a century later. He went on to attend Voorhees from the 9th grade to the 12th grade and graduated from Voorhees High School in 1962. Sellers became first interested in the civil rights movement following the murder of Emmett Till in 1955. He helped other students organize their first protest during the 1960s at Denmark, South Carolina lunch counter in support of the Woolworth citizens in Greensboro, North Carolina. Now, yesterday was February the 8th. Today is now February the 9th. So we're honored, especially this part, Dr. Sellers, that on February the 8th, 1968, and a day that will always hold a special place in his heart. On that day, the tensions of segregation and fury of the oppression sparked a violent melee on the campus of South Carolina State University. I know that you spent some time there on yesterday. Between protests and state policemen, and when the dust settled from that battle, 3 young men were dead and 27 were wounded, one of whom was yourself. It was this type of violence that you have worked hard to prevent. The incident later became known as the Orangeburg Massacre. The police officers involved in the shooting were acquitted, and Sellers was the only person arrested as a result of the Orangeburg Massacre. He spent 7 months behind bars on writing charges, and during those 7 months, Sellers made many life-changing decisions. He decided to complete his education and to fight for civil rights from the classroom by educating young people. He also decided to put his life on paper in his autobiography, The River of No Return. 25 years later, after his sentence ended, the conviction was pardoned. He continued his education by earning a master's degree in education from Harvard University. He has special bonds from some of those great departed civil rights activists who are no longer with us, including Martin Luther King, Michael Stokely, the late Lewis. And so we're going to allow him an opportunity to expand upon some of what you see and what you will read in his bio and many of his books. But if you do not know, it is an extreme honor, privilege, and pleasure to have with us the Dr. Cleveland L. Sellers.
I want to thank you for inviting me back to Voorhees College. It is on this stage that I should have made my thank you address to the high school, because I was the president of the Student Government Association at Voorhees High School. And so it's just interesting that I always find myself back on this particular stage, Lawrence Memorial Auditorium. And so I wanted to say that, but I also want to say that I'm on the shoulders of so many others. Unknown sheroes and heroes, many of them, their names are not written in the literature, but they played a magnificent role and a very strong role. Two groups that were deliberately left out were women and children, or young people. And it was the young people who made the difference in the civil rights movement. The civil rights movement after 1955 became somewhat lethargic. And in 1960, the spark hit at North Carolina A&T State University, and the sit-ins began. And the sit-ins came down what is now, I guess, I-70 and I-85 out of Greensboro to Charlotte, and then down to Rock Hill, where we had the Rock Hill 9. And I'm mentioning that because as a student at Voorhees High School, and we shared the same buildings that the college students shared. So that was an asset to us that was, it just made so much difference in who we are. We had students from Africa, and they were talking about independence in the French African colonies. And so we had a wider vision of the struggle for civil rights. So one day we were able to get 3 calls, and one of them was Mr. Howard, who was the principal, and the other one was Father Grant, and then my parents. And we drove up to Rock Hill, high school students. We had formed an NAACP youth group, and we had sought solidarity with the movement in Rock Hill. And as a result of that, we came back and we continued to organize our communities. So when we talk about standing on the shoulders, we are talking about Fannie Lou Hamer, for example. Everybody should know Fannie Lou Hamer. Ella Baker, another example. Ella Baker was the founder of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, and she made sure that we adhered to certain disciplines. One of the first disciplines was get rid of that ego, because it is going to make you
obviously, by way of your education sometimes, look down on the people that you should be helping to lift up. Look down on the people that you should be lifting up. And then we were taught some organizing skills, and we went off on our journey to change the world and start out with changing Cambridge, Maryland, and started out changing Mississippi in 1964. So all of the people that were part of the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party are people that made a difference in my life and in my trajectory after that. I'm gonna go a little bit further and then I'll stop. But one of the things I want to say is that many folk have seen the effort on the part of other writers and historians to tell a different story. But the harsh reality is that Mississippi was real. During the summer of 1964, we lost 6 young people. Most of you know about Goodwin, Shirley, and Cheney. And if you don't know about them, you need to go find out who they are. But there were 2 young men from Alcorn State. And while they were searching for Goodwin, Cheney, and Turner, they found the upper tassel of one of the boys and the lower tassel of the other one. And so that was 2 more. And then on the project that I was on, we lost one young man, Wayne Yancey was his name. He was from Tennessee, but we lost him in a real strange automobile accident in which he was killed instantly. So those are some of the ways in which my involvement in civil rights came. Certainly Emmett Till, I'm from the Emmett Till generation, and I want you to know that. I'm from the Malcolm X generation, I want you to know that too. And when we look at these individuals, we have to go ahead and strip them down and find out who they really are. Who they really are. I remember a woman in Dorchester, South Carolina, named Victoria DeLee. And all of her children assisted in the desegregation of the schools in Dorchester County. And all of them were graduates of Voorhees. So we need to know about these kinds of people so we can begin to set a focus, set an objective in terms of what we want to meet. I ended up, I stayed in a prison for up to a year, but they weren't the same. I did 8 months in the South Carolina prison for a ride that I didn't cause. It wasn't a ride, it was just a shooting in the barrel for them. And we'll talk a little bit about that. But also, when I refused induction into the armed services, I was sentenced to 5 years. When I went back to get the sentence, the judge decided that he wasn't going to give me a bond. And it took us 4 months to get to the Supreme Court, and Justice Black, you may know Justice Black on the Supreme Court, he's no longer with us, granted the bond and sent it back. When I got back to Atlanta, where we had the bondsman ready, I took off the handcuffs which were behind me, and before I could move my hands around, there was a group out of Baton Rouge, Louisiana, that said I had committed a crime in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And so I had to go back another day because we had to go through the whole process of setting a bond and then getting bonded out. But that's the kind of system we operate under with this segregation. It's always another kind of story. Like, who can figure out what CRT is? I haven't figured it out. And most of them haven't figured it out. So it's anything and everything that's anti-Black.
Absolutely.
Okay? That's what it is.
And I want to keep you there for a second, Dr. Sellers, because you talk about even the young students at Alcorn State. Because a lot of the things, even as I go through and look at some of the young photos, so if you haven't seen some of the young photos of Dr. Sellers, I would suggest you go back and look at some of these photos of the young Dr. Sellers. But you're still quite handsome, Dr. Sellers. So, but I want to keep you in that frame of mind because this is critical to our students now. Where they are now, they're the same ages. A lot of times we have this misconception about the civil rights movement because people feel like it was so long ago, and that it was always the older people that were doing things. These were young people. These were students that looked like the students that roam our campus freely every day. And so, you having been an activist at such a young age, and then still being able to go through many other struggles, look at this from a different perspective. And we have some activists here, some social activists, some political activists in the making. What type of advice would you even give to them as they navigate their way through everything that is happening?
Well, the first thing they have to do is navigate through Voorhees College. Okay?
There you have it.
So you have to have an education to know what's out there. And we don't. And then you have the experience that will be coming. There's going to be some difficult days ahead. And that's what Dr. King said just before he was assassinated. There are going to be some difficult days ahead. And you might as well get ready and be prepared for it. The country is toying on the notion of going back to segregation. Toying on that nation. And we have seen the white supremacy kind of raise its ugly head. And we have seen Tyree, which means that some of us have even adopted that premise. And we have to be very careful because you will get put in that situation and you have to be able, and you have to have the strength and the courage to say, no, don't want none of that. And that's one of the things that we were taught. Let me give you one example of what Elevator taught us that we didn't know when we were doing the sit-ins and the freedom rides and all those kinds of things, that we understood that our lives were in danger. But when I go to Mississippi and I stay with a local person until we get maybe a freedom house, and then we all pile in the freedom house. But one of the things that you learn is that people in Mississippi who lived in houses that still in 1964 had ground floors in their homes. They just took the switcher or sweeper and cleaned up the front room. And I went to one time and they were in there and they had, what do you call it? You call it food stamps now, but what was it called back in the day? Government supplies? Was that what it was? Chicken in the can is what I'm talking about. The powdered eggs. Anybody here familiar with that? Okay, y'all know something about that. They fixed a meal for me, and they must have taken all the food that they had and set it on the table, and set it at the end of the table and watched me eat. Because that was their contribution. They didn't have no money. And they said that we have the bed prepared, and the bed was in the one bedroom house. And they had 3 children. So it made 5 of them. And it was hard for me to sleep that night because they had gone through so much to express a interest in, a commitment to it, and those kinds of things. And I tell you that because it was in the poorest county in the United States, the poorest. It had a sewage ditch running through the middle of town, and they call it a sweet ditch, so that they could have something that goes against that kind of thing. And that was the difference in terms of in terms of switching up. But one of the things that I knew by staying in that house, I put that family at risk. Okay? Now that's something for a young person to come in contact with. At 19, 18, 17, we even had one young lady that ran a project that was 15. That you knew that anytime you made contact, whether or not it was ready to vote, you put them in jeopardy. And the question always comes up, who is responsible for the person that causes people to get killed? And that's a philosophical question that we need not talk about. What we need to talk about is how do you get to where you're trying to go? How are you trying to find justice? And those kinds of things. If people are willing, you explain the risk. And the thing that you can say is that, I will go with you if that's what you need. I will go with you, but I can't keep these folks from killing you, both of us. And so you have to think about the maturation that comes in almost instantly. And then, after a while, they begin to families who had death and were, kind of finding their way. If they thought it was a suspicious death, they would call us. We would have to go in and look at the body and look at the scarring and try to make a determination of whether or not it looks like foul play. That's the heavy kind of duty thing that we had to do. And it wasn't a question, they were going to come and get you in and out. And they didn't mind you going in. But I'm just saying that to talk about the maturation that we had. And that you go from there to growing up. And now you're taking on real responsibilities. But you had to be smart, you had to be sharp.
And you just spoke, and as you were going through that piece there about finding justice. And I think about even the Orangeburg massacre, because from that point on, you have been on this quest to find justice, to continue to make justice, social justice, that umbrella by which you have lived your life. And just in case you haven't noticed, these are some trophies from the bowling alley. There was a bowling team that after you were there and they integrated, because that whole notion allowed them to integrate. But our very own Stephanie Klutz was on the bowling team after that integration and has these chapters, right? So she wouldn't have even been able to be allowed in that space had it not been for the Orangeburg massacre and your continuation of finding justice in that place. So it's amazing how things become full circle for us. And even in the 1619 project, and you and I have had a lot of conversations just about South Carolina and its role and continuing to be a suppressive type of place even at times. And there's something that you've always said, so I want to point this out to you, just get your opinion. It says, enslaved African Americans have always been among the foremost freedom fighters this country has produced. For generations, we have believed in this country with a faith that did not deserve. Black people have seen the worst of America, and yet somehow we still believe in its best. That has always been your notion, that even despite of the things that have happened to you, that there is still a best in this place. How do we continue to seek for that justice and look at it?
Well, I think my example may not be the one that a lot of people take, but when I talk about South Carolina, I always talk about the Orangeburg massacre being the litmus test for race. If it doesn't address the state of South Carolina doesn't address the Lyceum massacre, have an investigation, find out the truth, report the truth, and then some kind of reconciliation only comes when there's restitution. You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
They have no given any kind of life to what happened in Orangeburg. They say let dead dogs live. I have been going there. Yesterday was the 55th year of commemoration since the incident actually happened. And I have to keep going. I can't keep standing up on the stage. I have just drained that eye dry. But anyhow, the other thing is that the state of South Carolina, the Boy Scout denied me my Eagle Scout achievement for 40 years before I was able to be recognized as an Eagle Scout. The state of South Carolina initially had charges in Orangeburg of breaking and entering, grand larceny, assault on a police officer, arson, and riot. I was looking at if I added up each of the maximums on that, it came to some 85 years. And that was strange. That was so strange that if you look at the picture of me with all the state police officers around me, I'm smiling because this has to be absurd. I mean, this has to be fantasia. I mean, you know, this is just completely cuckoo. Nobody can come up with this kind of thing. But then the other thing was that I went on and decided to get busy and finish my education, and that's what I did. And I also had an opportunity to lecture at Cornell University. I did get my master's from Harvard University. I did get my doctorate from the University of North Carolina at Greensboro. I did that. But the other thing I did was I always worked with young people in those communities, especially young Black males. And eventually I came to young females. This is what happened one time when Macari was really a tot. He was about maybe 5 or 6 years old. And he was looking at TV and they had this roundup of all these little boys about his height, a little bit taller than he is. And he said, "Dad, that were your boys again. Do you have to go get them?" I said, "No, I'm hoping somebody else will go get those. But yes, those are my boys." And so, you know, he understood what I was doing. I made it a point of letting him know what I was doing. Ella Baker always told us to get rid of that ego, but she also told us, stay out of the front of stuff. You don't need to have your name on the front page. All you need to do is do the work. And so a lot of people think that when we talk about change and we talk about protest and we talk about revolution or whatever it is we're talking about, that we have to be on the mic out front. And what you have is you have more mic heads than you have anything else. Okay? So I'm the one that eases around, eases about to try to find out whatever it is I'm trying to see or feel. And so as a result of that, you're beginning now to find additional material on Cleveland sellers, but you won't find a lot of stuff. So I decided to do what was expected of me from my teachers here at Voorhees High School, and that is write a book. I did an autobiography. I went with 20. Now, how does that sound? You don't have a lot of information going on, but I have enough to fill up a book. So that becomes very important. So stay in school, go as far as you can, go as far as the money will go, and then get yourself a job and then go some more. But that's how you get started on this project. And it's change and it's activism. You have to do that kind of thing. And I would hate for you to have to wait until somebody comes up in front of you and call you the N-word. And then you're supposed to be able to say, "You're not speaking to me, sir." And keep on moving. Don't even worry about it. But you get discombobulated because you don't know how to confront those kinds of things when you find that they come to you. And I will assure you that Floyd was felt under my man's knee like a he was on the knee of his N word, okay?
And I'm looking at them sometimes, I'm trying to make sure that we stay time on task, so I do want you to cover two things for me that you just mentioned, even as you talk about, not always being at the forefront of things. And you have not been, but when you go back and you look through the literature, you were always there. If Dr. Martin Luther King was at the mic, you would always see Cleveland adjusted to the left or to the right. I remember a photo seeing you, with Dr. Betty Shabazz, Malcolm's wife, and you were still, I mean, you were always there. And so this is so, the irony in this, hiding in clear sight, you were always there throughout all of these pieces. And so you talk about the importance too of connections. I think about your son and being able to see him, walk this life now. And he always, of course, gives you the utmost credit and having that connector because, you talk about the Legos being able to be connectors and being connected to other people and not always being seen. But explain a little bit, even before we let you go, Doc, about the significance of the right connections, so to speak.
Well, I just say that it was important for many of us to learn organizing skills and techniques. When we went to Mississippi in 1964, we took some of our group from Howard University, the NAG group, and we took them into small towns, and we would drop them off early in the morning and say, we'll be back to see you next week. And that was it. And they had to go in, find them a place to stay, find them a place to eat, and the rest of it. The community already knew that they were coming. So they had already gotten together and said, well, you can stay over at such and such a house, or you can stay in the hayloft, or you can stay in the extra room, or whatever it might be. So you became very good, because when you worked for SNCC, you made not $6.72 a week when you got it. And that was haphazard. I mean, they could go a whole month without sending you in money, so you had to learn how to survive without very much. So these are the kinds of things that you learn in order for you to survive what it was you were doing, your passion. And you become more passionate about it because, it provides you with the resources that you need to do the work that you had to do.
Thank you, Dr. Sellers. And I'm sure that Dr. Sellers will stick around a little bit more to entertain even questions as we go throughout the remainder of our program.
That's my grandmother. Is that as fast as you can go? That's my mother and her three sisters. She had 7 sisters. And that's all 7 of them. No, that's 8 of them. I keep taking my mother out. And that's her in the middle. She was at Voorhees back in the 1930s.
Wow.
Yep, and was one of the founding members of the staff over at Denmark Tech. She went from Voorhees to Denmark Tech and retired there.
Will you be leaving us this presentation so that we can make it available to everyone?
Huh?
Will you be leaving us a copy of this presentation so we can make it available to everyone?
I don't know. Okay, go ahead. This is a picture of the Sellers family. That's my daddy right there. And you can see back in those days, the boys wore little skirts too. You understand? Probably didn't have on anything up under it, but that's what you want. That's my dad, and he opened up a motel here. That was the last business that he had. He had a cafe called Sellers Cafe, and all the guys and the football players and the coaches used to go down there and drink beer.
And you had a taxi service and among other
Taxi
things.
service, yeah. And that's my dad and my mother Marion, and that's in 1942. That's another picture of inside the house, inside her house. That's my sister and I. That's me. That's me.
That's the picture that's in the museum, the mascot.
That's the one that's.
Voorhees mascot.
Yeah, my mama made the uniform, y'all. I don't know where she got the helmet from. All right, that's me and one of my birthday parties. That's me on the end right there. And these are local folk in Denmark. That's Roddy Grigsby right there. And that's the two of us too, right there. And that's me in the Voorhees parade.
With a horse-drawn carriage.
Yeah. That's my horse named Tiny. That's me. And I took it at the same age. That this is Swanee. This young man was the first and only 14-year-old executed in the state of South Carolina for rape. And just a couple of years ago, they had a trial and they couldn't find enough evidence to go either way. So it kind of got moved. But 14 years old, he's in his prison outfit, and I think he might have been electrocuted. That's Father Grant, and that's me over at St. Philip's Chapel. I was an alcoholic too. None of that mattered when it came down to trying to get me in jail. And that's Leo Potts, that's Dr. Potts' daughter, that's my sister, and that's me here, and Father Grant. Father Grant almost got me to become an Episcopal priest, but he got terminated, and so I didn't like that. So I said, I'll wait, seeing what I will be. Now, this is Alabama. This is Miss Boyton in Alabama. Look what that police is doing. Y'all thought the Floyd thing was new. Right. This is in the 1960s here. And look at the lady's hair. I want you to look at it. You see those curls? You can see the curls, can't you? All right, you ladies, tell me what happens when somebody's gonna put your head in the dirt. You just got your hair did? You know that, but these are the police, and they're trying to arrest her, trying to get her under control so they can arrest her. Same thing with Floyd. All right, go ahead. I wanted to show you what the restroom situation looked like. You had ladies, men, and y'all, colors. And that's Emmett Till. And that's Emmett Till and his mother. She's over coffee. And I put this together because I was younger than Emmett Till, but I thought this was a picture that matched up. And you can see me over here and Emmett Till over here. That could have been me or any of the rest of black men during that time. And I wanted to contrast it so you'll see what impact and relationship it had on us of that generation. And who is that? Anybody know who that is? Ruby Bridges. She is in the first grade, okay? She had 1, 2, 3 U.S. Marshals to escort her into the school and out of the school, and with her the whole time, because people had said that they wanted the police to go away so they could kill them. And she began to understand what she was, the gravity of it. Yes. Go ahead. This is Sharna. No, this is Goodman, Cheney, and Sharna. When the bodies were found, we took them to New York to have a kind of autopsy done on them. And Cheney was the one that was not shot. He was beaten so bad that the doctor said that he had every bone in his body broken, like he was pushed out of the airplane. So those are the 3. That's the automobile that they were in when they got pulled over by the city police, And it was the city police and the chief who were part of the posse that rounded them up and took them into a garage or something and beat Cheney to death. And then they had to shoot Shirley and Goodman because they didn't want to leave anybody live and tell what had happened. So that was one of the first mass kind of killings of people in the organization that in and around the organization. My first task in Mississippi was to go in to Philadelphia, Mississippi, and see if I could find the place where the bodies were. And we would have black hunters go out and find ditches, old abandoned houses, wells, all that kind of stuff. And at night, we'd get picked up in a truck with a bed on it. We would ride out, they would drop us off, and we'd go through and search that whole area and see if we could find our comrades. And this is the place that they were found. You can just see images of them because the coroner and all had to go into that and talk about soil samples and all that kind of stuff. This is a picture by Oliver Russo. She was shot and killed in Alabama during the Selma to Montgomery March. I worked logistics with Jose Williams in the march to Alabama. This is Jonathan Daniels. He got beat to death in Selma. Somebody had a pipe. I think it was a pipe, and just busted his skull open. Sammy Young was a Purple Heart veteran who came back to Tuskegee. He was from Tuskegee, and he went to Tuskegee and he joined SNCC. And he was trying to use a restroom, and the man told him that he wasn't gonna give him the key to the restroom. And Sammy kept cajoling him, and the man pulled a gun on him. Sammy ran out and jumped on a bus. And the bus driver kept saying, I have to be in Atlanta about such and such a time, that you have to get off my bus. And we found Sammy Young laid on that night beside this little store, and he was shot through the eye and killed.
And see, Dr. Sellers, one of our asked for the presentation slides, so there's so much rich history in all of the slides that he has, and there are 85 or so.
Who is this? This is the picture of the Birmingham 16th Street church bombing. They were in the Sunday school on that morning, and somebody had loaded it with dynamite, and it went off. One of those young ladies who survived and was blind will be in South Carolina in a couple of weeks, I'm thinking. That's the church right there. You can see it all blown out, but the church is restored, and many of the members still will take you on tours of that church if you ever go to Birmingham. Go by the church. And if you go in the basement where they were blown up, because they were in the basement with getting rolled up and all that kind of stuff, I think they might have been in the choir too, but they were in Sunday school. You can sit there for a couple of minutes and I will assure you that there will be some kind of emotional response to your being in that place. All right, we gotta go. All right, we don't go, but I want to show you this young lady right here. This is in Birmingham. And see the police standing here? They're ready to arrest them. But, you know, this young lady here is ready to go. But this one is, look at her face. Look at her expression. She knows she's about to be arrested, but she also gonna resist. She's gonna stand right there and make them, you know, push you along or whatever. But she's not scared. That's what I want you to see. She's saying, I'm right where I want to be, I'm right where I need to be, and if you gotta take me to jail, then you need to come on and get me. I ain't coming over there for you. And I thought that was good for young people to be able to see that. Okay, I'm finished.
Yes, but we'll stop right there, but that's this notion of, even for you young folks, as he wanted to stop here 10 toes down, this is a new expression of what that means, right? She's in a place, she's standing her ground, and she's gonna stand on what she believes in, right?
Yeah.
So thank you, we have to do this again, Dr. Sellers, so we've run out of time, we have to do this again, so please say that you will come again. We would be remiss, of course, if I did not bring before you the 10th president, I like to call him the dime president, he's my dime president, but the 10th president of Voorhees University to leave us with some remarks. Dr. Ronnie Hopkins.
Thank you, Dr. Chanel, Dean Chanel. Didn't you do a wonderful job? Let's give her and also, I'd like if Professor Ellen Zeiholtz, would you join us, please? Yes, please, come on up. Can you give her a round of applause? I'm curious to know, and I would like for anyone who was a student or an employee when Dr. Sellers served as the 8th president of Voorhees, would you please stand? I'm curious to know. I know there's quite a few of you. Dr. Sellers, you did well. You kept them here, they didn't leave, and I haven't scared them off, so thank you. Dr. Sellers, and please come on in, Professor. On the other side of Dr. Sellers. So, Dr. Sellers, we are honored to have you return home to share your amazing historic legacy, impact, and contributions to the civil rights movement with us today. Raise your hand if you learned something today. I'll be the first. Oh my goodness, what an amazing professor. Absolutely. We definitely, you're absolutely right. We've got to have you back. Because of you, our students and the entire university community will better understand and appreciate that tragic day of February 8, 1968. Mind you, I was 4 years old, on the campus of South Carolina State University. Most importantly, in you, we have our own model of Black resistance. Indeed, sir, you are Black history, and we truly appreciate you. Please come home and come home often. And we have a gift for you.
Okay.
And we certainly thank you. To our distinguished visitor, Professor Ellen Zeiholtz, South Carolina State University Director and Curator and President for the Center of Creative Partnerships. We welcome you today and thank you for your amazing contributions for preserving histories. Voorhees University looks forward to developing significant partnerships with you. Thank you for sharing our space today. Let's give it a hand. As always, I want to take the time to recognize our Voorhees University family, for the world-class faculty and dedicated staff of Voorhees University. Would you please stand? Will be members of the Lyceum committee. Would you please stand and be recognized? You've done a wonderful job. And of course, again, I say it time and time again, the reason we get up every day. Will the amazing students at Voorhees University, will you please stand? Certainly a special shout out to our amazing Voorhees University concert choir. Let's give them another round of applause. We love you so much, and thank you for all that you do. One of these days I will ease up there and sing with you, but I'll do some practicing before I leave. I'd like to recognize our executive cabinet and senior leadership, Dr. Devera Hightower Mitchell, Provost and Vice President for Academic Affairs. Dean Diane Vice President for Business and Fiscal Affairs. Colleen Johnson, Vice President for Student Affairs and Athletics. Dr. Kent Brown, Vice President for University Advancement. Dr. Corey Elliker, Vice President for Strategic Planning, Assessment and Technology. And in their absence, Mr. Adrian West, Vice President for Enrollment Management. And our Dean Corey Smith, Dean of the Chapel and Spiritual Engagement. Thank you all for coming out today as we continue to celebrate Black History Month and continue to expand the vision of our sacred founder, Elizabeth Evelyn Wright, the first African-American woman to found an HBCU, and as we continue to advance becoming a beloved community as a part of our culture. To God be the glory. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day.
Thank you so very much, and this concludes our program. Mr. Jefferson, I did not receive any announcements of such, but Ms. Clutch, is there anything else that I need to address prior to us leaving?
No, we have to meet with the Lyceum committee and, of course, Dr. Hopkins and the executive cabinet, so we be able to go over it and start selling.
Okay, so those of you who know that you need to stay for your photo opportunities, please feel free to do so. But other than that, again, thank you to Dr. Sellers. Thank you to our flyers. Thank you to our and